Thank you. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini-plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitute a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone, and where connectivity permits, connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up his/her hand to raise points of assist in alerting the chairperson to members requesting to speak. When using the visual system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. Lastly, I wish to remind you that you are meeting in a mini-plenary session, and therefore, any decision will be taken in a full plenary session of the Assembly. The first item on the order paper is a subject for discussion in the name of the Honorable X N Msimango on examining the fiscal framework of the local government spheres against its constitutional mandate, with proposals on debt owned by municipalities and vice versa, and other revenue enhancing mechanisms for a financially sustainable local government. I now recognize the Honorable X N Msimango from the visual platform.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Am I audible enough?
You are, Dr. Msimango. Please continue.
Okay. With your,
you are audible, Dr. Msimango.
With your permission, Chair, can I switch off my video because of my unstable network?
Please.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair of the committee, honorable committee members, members of the executive, distinguished guests, greetings. The ANC understands the importance of local government in delivering services to our people to create a better lives. It is for these reasons that the ANC believes in a stable and functioning municipalities such as that they deliver on their mandate stipulated in the Constitution and the white paper, which is about to deliver the provision of services and services for communities and a local system of governance. Any challenges facing local government needs to be resolved with speed, as this hinders service delivery, which our communities desperately need. NC policy on local government.
Excuse me, Msimango. Your line is not so good. You keep on disappearing.
Can you hear me now?
Maybe if you try to move. Yeah, please, let's try it again.
Okay. ANC policy on local government and participatory democracy, the people shall govern. What committee needs to focus on community engagements with door-to-door campaigns, report backs, and follow-ups to all community engagements. This needs to be done timeously to place the people in the center of governance. This will develop a participatory culture on matters affecting residents' duty, such as payment of rates and taxes. Councillors need to always work with the people in the service delivery process as envisaged by the white paper on local government in 1998. The ANC through DDM calls for a developmental local governance. This means an evidence-based approach to local development needs must be developed to ensure clear intergovernmental plans to address the changing societal, economic, and environmental realities and reduce the apparent spatial inequalities. All DDMs must have a clear social, economic, and environmental strategy in which partnerships are clearly defined to retain and expand local economies, whilst also redressing the apartheid spatial inequalities. All municipalities must ensure effective collaborations between civil society and organs of state in delivering on the whole value chain of infrastructure projects, while ensuring prescribed maintenance and renewal schedules are implemented in time. This exposes how we can create a financially sustainable developmental local government through accelerating local economic development, which is central to the question of the framework in the context of the white paper. Local economic development and the advancement of localization policies can boost economic development and economic empowerment through the establishment and growth of various economic industries, which are a region's competitive advantage. The white paper assumptions on the viability on local government revenue-based. We welcome this year's 1% increase in revenue division to the local government sphere. Currently, the equitable share is standing at 9.7% from 8.7%. This is a shift to the right direction. Many municipalities still significantly underfunded budgets, which is an issue the fiscal framework should address. Government has to strengthen its ability to ensure the quality of expenditure to improve the condition of communities. The ANC resolutions in the last national conference spoke to an issue of amending the white paper of 1998 of local government to capture better lessons learned and areas of improvement. The ANC calls on COGTA to expedite this process. This will go a long way to improve the financial sustainability to implement the constitutional mandate of local government. In almost 29 years of freedom and democracy, years in progress and development in several areas, the ANC government has expanded access to basic services such as water, electricity, and sanitation. In housing, which is now human settlement, the ANC has delivered 4 million free houses, remodeled and built new schools, expanded freeways, new settlements, which communities, integrated communities in space, in cities and towns, and introduced bus rapid transport in metros. These are the democratic gains we should defend and build on. The ANC government in 2001 adopted an indigent policy intended to improve, to provide free basic services to poor households. Under this policy, municipalities are required to identify indigent households that would receive services such as water and electricity for free or unsustainable subsidized rates. This program is also happening even now. However, many interventions can still be done. We call on municipalities to implement these interventions to help struggling communities so that no one is left behind. The optimum utilization of the indigent grant will improve the living conditions of our poor people. Stats SA report that open quote South Africa's 257 municipalities registered 351 million indigent households in 2017. That's about 1 of every 5 of the country's 16.2 million household stats, close quotes. The requirement is that household register with the municipality to qualify for free basic services. Successful applicants are granted indigent status. Municipalities should have awareness campaigns so that households are aware of the application process. There are constraints. A municipality might be unable to service all indigent households that have successfully registered due to lack of funds or inadequate infrastructure. Municipalities out of
the first name is the one that was in the email that
municipalities 147 out of 257 in 2017. Can I continue, Chair?
Yes, please continue.
Municipalities out of 147 out of 257 in 2017 classified an indigent household as a family combined income earning of less than 3,200 per month. 11 municipalities, 9 local.
Unfortunately, your time is up, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. From the DA, the Honorable E.R.J. Spies.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Am I audible?
You're audible.
Am I audible? Okay. Good afternoon, House
Very
Chair.
clear, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much. The Auditor General in July 2020 said the following. There is a financial cul-de-sac that many of the local municipalities and districts have already reached across the whole country, with a few and limited exceptions. As the closest sphere of government to the people, municipalities are responsible for providing basic services such as water, sanitation, electricity, and waste management. However, many municipalities are facing financial challenges, which makes it difficult for them to fulfill their constitutional obligations. 66 municipalities across the country are dysfunctional, and they have exactly these challenges. One of the most pressing challenges facing the municipalities is the level of indebtedness. Many municipalities owe large sums of money to service providers such as Eskom and water boards and to their employees. At the same time, many municipalities are owed large sums of money by residents and businesses for services rendered. This situation is unsustainable and requires urgent attention. The issue of debt owed by municipalities cannot be solved without looking at the consumer debt owed to municipalities. On one hand, there needs to be stricter credit control coupled with up-to-date indigent registers so that those who cannot pay are exempted and those who can pay do. The local government billing system is a critical instrument for success and in turn relies on correct data, clean bills, and positive revenue collection actions. A credible, fair, and transparent mechanism is necessary to increase or improve collection from debtors. Debt collection or recovery stands at the end of the revenue value chain. On the other hand, municipalities are compelled by NERSA not to pass on higher costs of bulk electricity to customers but there are limits to the extent to which they can sustainably do that. Municipalities must be allowed to buy power from residents and businesses with solar installations. Small-scale embedded generation uptake provides potential benefits for municipalities via cheaper electricity and reduction of technical losses. Water and electricity is lost due to lack of maintenance, and this results in unnecessary revenue loss. It is of critical importance that National Treasury and COCTA mandates local government and makes it obligatory that sufficient funds must be allocated towards the maintenance of existing infrastructure instead of always prioritizing new infrastructure at the expense of maintenance of existing infrastructure. In addition to managing debt, municipalities need to explore other revenue enhancing mechanisms to ensure their long-term financial sustainability. One such mechanism is the introduction of revenue generating projects, such as the development of land for commercial purposes or the installation of renewable energy infrastructure. These projects can provide a new source of income for municipalities and reduce their dependence on central government funding. And although not new, revenue enhancement through the effective management of municipal assets is key. Municipalities should explore innovative ways to utilize these assets for revenue generation, such as the leasing of unused land for commercial purposes or the development of affordable housing projects. Many municipalities have too many assets that are poorly maintained. Those that are surplus should be sold and the revenue put into maintaining those core assets that remain. Finally, it is important that we strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage their finances effectively. This includes improving financial management systems, strengthening internal controls, and investing in the training of municipal officials on financial management best practices. With stronger financial management systems and more skilled officials, municipalities will be better equipped to manage their finances and ensure their long-term financial sustainability. There isn't always a need to reinvent the wheel or come up with brand new strategies. What we need are competent officials with the capacity to think out of the box and the will to get things done. The monitoring and evaluation of interventions at local government level is failing. It is time to make use of a different sphere of society for such large-scale assistance to address the challenges facing municipalities and ensuring that they are able to meet their constitutional mandate to provide basic services to all South Africans requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders, including the national government, municipalities, and the private sector. The fiscal framework of the local government sphere in South Africa needs urgent attention now. 30 years later, local government has failed to be at the forefront of service delivery for all South Africans. In almost every sphere, at every level or department of government, we have consistently failed to turn our crises into opportunities, mostly because of an overwhelming need for control and penchant for corruption. For the ANC government, innovation is always stifled by the insatiable drive to steal, first fix, later approach to any problem. The absolute disdain for collaboration with other parties, civil society, and the capable private sector, as well as the overvaluation of their contribution to a partnership, turns any quick solution into a drawn-out process plan with no conclusion or implementation. Well, we are at the verge of a total collapse of local government service delivery. And if this government does not act with urgency, South Africans are ready to take their country back and give the mandate to govern to the DA. The DA has proven time and again that we can govern better, and we govern for the people, not the few connected cadres. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Mkalipi is the next person to speak.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chairperson, on Monday, the 20th of March, 2023, the Economic Freedom Fighters, led by the President and Commander-in-Chief, President Julius Malema, will embark on a national shutdown to demand electricity and Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa's resignation. In early February this year, when ESCOM was presenting their annual report at the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises, They said that municipalities owe them 44 billion. This amount was only 9.4 billion in 2017. A total of 96 municipalities out of 278 municipalities in South Africa are indebted to Eskom. Mbombela local municipality owes Eskom more than 500 million. Umkhondo municipality owes Eskom more than 300 million. We are told that the city of Tshwane owes Eskom more than $1 billion, but they don't agree. Enokumgijima local municipality owes Eskom more than 700 million. Kharip local municipality.
Honorable Khalidi.
Yes.
Yeah, Honorable Khalidi, excuse me.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chairperson.
I'm saying you keep on cutting all the time. Your line is totally not well.
All right, I'll keep on trying,
Maybe
Chair.
you
I'll
could
move
try
around.
to move. Yeah, you can maybe try moving from the spot where you are.
All right, thanks. JP Max local municipality in the Northwest, Chair, more than 800 million is owed to Eskom. In Nala local municipality in Free State owes Eskom more than 500 million, and this has been the case for the past 3 years. Motimole Mokopong local municipality owes Eskom more than 700 million. And because of this mess, Eskom is going around terrorizing municipal workers, repossessing assets of municipalities, and worse, subjecting our people to electricity blackouts that have nothing to do with supply and demand. We call on the people of Mbombela, Umkhondo, Tshwane, Enokumgijima, Kharip, JP Max, Nala, and all other municipalities to join the national shutdown on the 20th of March 2023 to demand electricity. It is now or never. If you are tired of electricity blackout, you must join the street and let your voice be heard. House Chair, the reality is that none of these municipalities will be able to settle their debts with Eskom. It does not matter how loud any of Eskom officials scream. During this year's honors debate, the EFF tried, and it tried on numerous times, to demonstrate that the current fiscal policy and the equitable share are not practically and are based on incorrect and misguided assumptions in the 1998 local government white paper. But we were debating with people like the current Minister of Kokta, Honorable Kadimeng, who failed to run Polokwane municipality, but walk away without a lesson from that experience. She was even a SALCA president. Another reality, Chair, is that if we continue to allocate just a mere 11% of the total revenue collected nationally by SARS to local governments and allow the national treasurer to push as much money to national and provincial governments as possible, including through grants, we'll be sitting with this problem for a very long time. The system does not need minor changes here and there. We need new assumptions and a new way of budgeting for local government, Honorable Msimango. Number one, we need to make it compulsory for municipalities to earmark budgets for indigent households to receive free electricity, free water and sanitation. This must flow from the division of revenue built directly into indigent households. It must not be optional. Number two, we need to agree that municipalities must receive a dedicated budget to build the internal capacity of engineers, town planners, artisans, and general workers, and stop outsourcing recurring functions. Number three, we need to agree that municipalities must procure local goods, and this must have a strategy that will stimulate local industrialization. Number four, we need to go to national and provincial budgets and take money of services that are provided by municipalities and allocated there. Number five, and most important, we need to resolve that municipalities are not profit-making businesses and therefore should not sell basic services with the intention of recovering all the costs to provide those services, because this is punishing the poorest of the poor who does not have any employment. Now, the last point is that these were the old World Bank and IMF ideas that have lost credibility. And all over the world, it never worked. It will never work here in South Africa. It will never work here in Africa. So therefore, we are calling for these changes as soon as possible. Until we agree on this basic, rational and logical step forward, Chairperson, we will debate this again in 2026. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kalipi. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, MPF Dau.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, and good afternoon to all the honorable members. Let me welcome the opportunity to participate in this debate today and start by saying that the design of our system of local government has not kept pace with the dynamic change that municipalities face on a day-to-day basis. But more importantly, the fiscal framework has not followed and adapted to these changes. In order to address the systemic and perennial challenges that are affecting our municipalities in both rural and urban areas in present-day South Africa, I want to take you back to just before the introduction of our democratic system of local government, and specifically point to the assumptions that were made in the white paper on local government. The white paper outlined 4 characteristics of developmental local government, namely, exercising municipal powers and functions in a manner which maximizes their impact on social development and economic growth, playing an integrated and coordinating role to ensure alignment between public, including all spheres of government, and private sector investments within the municipal area, democratizing development, and lastly, building a social compact through providing community leadership and vision and seeking to empower marginalized and excluded groups within the community. The white paper also proposes the development of a new framework for municipal finance, which would include local revenue instruments and policies, and suggested that while existing sources of municipal revenue should remain, some regulation of the property taxation system, including extension to rural areas, be considered, and that regional and establishment levies be considered. The white paper also encouraged municipalities to develop clear tariff policies and credit control mechanisms to ensure that poor households have access to basic services and that services are provided on a sustainable basis. While government has to some extent been able to implement the above, we have found that in more instances, the assumptions laid out in the white paper did not take into account the changing world, but more specifically, a change in South Africa and the huge cost to government to eradicate the injustices that were left behind by decades and centuries of segregation and apartheid planning. The result of these off-the-mark assumptions has resulted in local government becoming increasingly dependent on fiscal transfers from the national government. Honorable Chairperson, the intergovernmental financing fiscal system in South Africa is designed to ensure that each sphere is funded for the functions it is legally responsible for. The division of revenue amongst the 3 spheres of government considers the potential which each sphere is deemed to generate its own revenue. Looked from this perspective, the distribution of the nationally raised revenue, the bulk of which is derived from national taxes such as corporate tax, personal income tax, value-added tax, etc., can be viewed as constituting a distributive tax system. National transfers account for a relatively small portion of the local government fiscal framework, with the majority of local government revenues being raised by municipalities themselves through their substantial revenue-raising powers and responsibility. Though poor and rural municipalities receive proportionately most of their revenue from transfers, while urban municipalities raise most of their own revenue. Direct transfers to local government over the medium term account for 10% of national government's non-interest expenditure. When indirect transfers are added to this, total spending on local government increases to 10.6% of national non-interest expenditure. Over the 2023 MTF period, 521.7 billion rand will be transferred directly to local government, and a further 26.6 billion rand has been allocated to indirect grants. The significance of conditional grants is to direct resources towards achieving specific national policy objectives. It must be acknowledged that with the challenges of load shedding, unemployment, and the rising cost of living, which contributes to households not fulfilling their financial obligations to municipalities, municipal finances, and consequently their financial viability are severely challenged. Going forward, there must be consideration for reviewing the appropriateness of the current subsidy to fund basic services, improving the costing of community services, and allowing greater differentiation in favor of rural-based municipalities in the local government equitable share model. Honorable members, the general discourse around municipal boundary changes points out that the practice of regular and continuous redeterminations and merging of municipalities lead to substantial instability in municipal governance. This also includes administration and the provision of services. It has been argued that this instability detracts municipal entities from efficient municipal governance and service delivery, makes the attainment of capable governance and longer-term planning difficult, and also fuels political instability. It has been noted that after mergers, fruitless, irregular, and unauthorized expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure increased in most municipalities that have merged. Merely amalgamating municipalities without addressing such basic issues of capacity, training, and skills in municipalities will not have significant impact on the improvement of governance after mergers. Lack of planning, change management, costing, and provision of resources for transitionary processes during mergers and consolidation have had a significant impact on the overall governance in our municipalities. Honorable House Chair, there are many instances where discontent with service delivery in a specific community or area is advanced as a motivation for requests of redeterminations. This phenomenon is based on the perception that a particular community or area will be better served if they could administratively form part of another municipal area. That is, the grass is greener on the other side, which has proven not to be the case. Experience since 2000 has demonstrated that incorporation with and within more affluent jurisdictions can lead to a better standard of living, while the inclusion into poorer jurisdictions often leads to lower quality of services. Recent amalgamations, with Enoch Nkijima included, revealed that transitional grant funding given to municipalities during these processes are very little and do not cover the long-term costs associated with the establishment of new municipalities. Beyond demarcations, it must be noted that there are other factors that are impacting the financial viability and sustainability of our municipalities. Allow me, as I conclude, to reflect on the issue of the electricity distribution network. The distribution of electricity has been and is still the major source of own revenue for local government, as espoused in the 1998 White Paper on Local Government. The nature of challenges experienced by municipalities to pay debts related to poor revenue collection, which is concerning and which impacts on the viability of municipalities, cash flow and liquidity challenges, and therefore the payment plans with Eskom and water boards are not adhered to. Lack of enforcement of stringent credit control by municipalities, bloated organizational structures, and poor financial management is increasing the nature of the problem. Furthermore, 337 billion of Eskom's debt is already government guaranteed, reducing the fiscal risk and enhancing long-term fiscal sustainability for Eskom. We therefore welcome the Minister of Finance's announcement that this relief package would also be extended to local government with particular conditions that would be attached, and will be working very closely with Treasury in the resolution of these problems. We'll also need to review the advantages and disadvantages of the use of conventional versus prepaid meters for both consumers in municipalities and municipalities to their creditors, such as Eskom and water boards, as well as enable municipalities to use the resticulation of electricity in Eskom supplied areas as an instrument to enforce application of municipalities' credit control policies and debt collection policies. Honorable members, it is important to restate a matter that I stated in the House yesterday, which is the reality that with the advent of load shedding, with the advent of people moving away from the grid, this impacts significantly on the revenue streams of local government. We anticipate a continuous deterioration of revenue into municipalities. So as we resolve one crisis, which is the electricity crisis, we could precipitate a crisis in local government. This then requires that all of us apply our minds collectively to the solutions that we present and to addressing the challenges that local government will be facing and the fiscal pressures that would be impacting on our local government system. In this regard, we believe that a comprehensive review of the fiscal framework and the way in which local government is financed will be critical to the long-term resolution of the service delivery challenges that afflict our municipalities. Whilst having noted the comments by the honorable members, I think it is important to state that our local government system is designed such that municipalities are able to generate from these services such as water and electricity, surpluses and not profits, so that you are able to cross-subsidize other services. We'll have to accept that roads, sanitation, and other services that do not generate revenue would require subsidization from other services. Our design does not limit this pressure to only go to the property rates account, but for a diversification of investment instruments in local government to enable these to generate revenue and invest in the services that are so required in our communities. Our recommendation, therefore, is that it is important that we review the fiscal framework inclusive of the equitable share formula, as this is long outstanding despite 23 years of empirical evidence showing the opposite of the assumptions made in our white paper. To this end, the department is working closely with key national departments, provinces, and SALGA in fast-tracking the implementation of the summit resolutions on local government finance to ensure that municipalities are placed in a better position to fulfill their executive obligations and adherence to their respective service delivery agreements. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Deputy Minister. The Honorable Princess Buthelezi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, Chapter 7, Section 152, subsection 1B and 2 contends that the focus of local government is to ensure within its financial administrative capacity the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner. Furthermore, the local government fiscal framework indicates that property rates and service charges are the main sources of income for municipalities. However, considering that the ability of municipalities to fulfill their constitutional mandate is hampered by debt owed to them and by them, I think it is important that we focus on the root causes that underlie the debt accumulated by municipalities in our discussion of revenue enhancing mechanisms. As per the local government fiscal framework, municipalities are entitled to an equitable share of nationally raised revenue to enable them to provide basic services and perform their allocated functions. This is an unconditional transfer that supplements the revenue that municipalities can raise themselves which includes revenue raised through property rates and service charges. However, this transfer is not enough to cover the cost for service delivery, as municipalities lack an effective revenue collection mechanism, which in turn directly impacts municipalities' ability to enhance their revenue. Municipalities were owed 305.8 billion by the end of December 2022, with households owing municipalities 217 billion rands. As I've stated previously, the government's inability to sufficiently address unchecked expenditure by its departments and entities has forced municipalities to shoulder the burden of accumulated debt, which has escalated to sums of about 23 billion rands. Therefore, I remain questioning why municipalities should have to enter into payment terms with government departments over monies that should have been budgeted to spend on its operations. A further concerning issue is that even after 3.4 billion for the debt owed by all 257 municipalities in the country has so far been written off, which unfairly shifts the burden to the taxpayer. The government has continued with its unspoken standard operating procedure in terms of non-payments to municipalities. It is of crucial importance that we realize the non-payment of government departments has caused an escalation of unnecessary expenditure for municipalities. The revenue collection mechanism in municipalities should extend beyond enforcing service blocks on households that fail to make payments for the services delivered, as they should also include repercussions for government, it should also include repercussions faced by government departments. Before we can even start considering revenue enhancing mechanisms, we need to prioritize how municipalities will collect these revenues. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Buthelezi. The next speaker is the Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I want to quote out of a book, Wealth for All, and it reads, "When money realizes that it is in good hands, it wants to stay and multiply in those hands." The constitutional mandate of local government are interconnected with the details and operation of the fiscal framework, but it's common knowledge that expenditure is limited by available financial resources. A municipality won't be able to invest in new infrastructure, fund infrastructure maintenance, or support socioeconomic programs without the money these require. But although the tariffs charged for municipal service are an important source of municipal revenue, if the cost of services such as electricity and water become unaffordable to poor households, this will have the effect of reducing the real income and deepening poverty by reducing household income available for other basic needs. Service costs is already raised beyond an affordable level. Poor households are no longer able to afford to purchase them, depriving them of access. The middle class scarcely afford the rates and tariffs as it is. The white paper of 1998, talking to the fiscal framework, refers to the projections that did not take into account current collected data, such as assumptions that local government could raise 73% of its own revenue. Furthermore, when the white paper was adopted, South Africa had one of the cheapest bulk electricity prices globally. The plundering of Eskom led to a marked escalation of tariffs well excess of inflation. The total of outstanding debt to Eskom by municipalities is 57 billion rand. But the outstanding debt of government to municipalities stand at 23 billion rand. The total bailout to Eskom stands at 181.5 billion rand. Why don't Treasury do debt comparison from the bailout and outstanding government debt to municipalities, taking the budget from provinces and departments that don't pay for services, putting money back in the fiscus and help local government by lowering the Eskom debt, in turn helping local communities and general taxpayers by paying less bailouts and saving municipality millions in outstanding interest occurred. The biggest contributor to failure of municipalities to comply with their constitutional mandate is the fact that criminal syndicates is in charge of people's money. Corruption, fraud, and incompetence is the main contributor to the fact that taxpayers have to pay more for getting less. Corruption and fraud cases must get priority to recover as much as possible money from the corporates. In die geskiedenis van Afrika is die lande wat misdaad en korrupsie ongeken laat seevier, waar die risiko loop dat staatsgreep uitgeoefen word op die punt waar die burgery nie meer kan aanhou betaal vir korrupsie en bedrog en dan geen dienslewering ontvang. Die staat sal sy fondasie vir dienslewering moet regryk en met spoed, want die belastingbetalers nie tevrede met krummels as hulle brood koop nie. Munisipale tenderentrepreneurs en korrupte politici steel nou die melk en die room en los die leekan agter vir projekte. Daarom kom projekte nie klaar nie. Dienslewering kan nie gelewer word nie, want die salarisrekening van munisipaliteite is selfs soms meer as totale inkomste, en dan moet daar gevra word, hoekom het die staat in die tyd waar die privaat sektor mense afgelê het, weens die verwoestende ekonomie van COVID, mense gaan aanstel, en dan is daar nie eens genoeg voertuie om daardie mense toe te laat om hulle werk te doen nie, en ander amptenare is meeste van die tyd nie eens by die werk nie. Die ANC het munisipaliteit in die afgrond bestuur op die punt van geen omkeer nie, en verdien Suid-Afrika 'n gesonde en 'n goeie regering sonder die ANC. Dit sal min vat van 'n nuwe regering om beter te doen as die ANC, want slegter as die ANC is ongesiend. Kom ek sluit af. Hier is die VFP se waarskuwing. Pas op, die belastingbetaler kan en wil nie meer planne hoor nie. Hulle wil aksie sien of hulle gaan self oorgaan na aksie toe. Dankie, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Groenewald. I do not have an indication of speakers from the IEC, COPE, PAC, and Al-Jama.
IEC, Chair.
Pardon me?
Are you saying IEC?
I said, I'm sorry, AIC.
Oh.
I always do that, eh? AIC, COPE, PAC, and Al-Jama.
Honorable House Chair, I would like to speak.
Honorable Hendricks, are you there?
Yes, I am, Honorable Chair. Can I contribute?
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable House Chair, our newly elected Deputy Minister, the Honorable Park Cow, has challenges to revise the fiscal framework. Yesterday, I revived a new term in Parliament, illicit financial flows. This can be looting, fraud, and stealing, and increasing tender prices tenfold. So we know that 50% of municipal budget is lost through illicit financial flows. And the reason is that they often depend on the SIU to investigate and to jail IFF criminals. Let us use soft words, Honorable House Chair. The problem is that the fiscal framework encourages IFF. And the reason is quite simple. The SIUs only pay 30 days after they report for their work. How can they fund their investigations and they are already 2 billion rand owing to them by municipalities, by other institutions of government? So that means to recover the 50% of municipal IFFs, there is no SIU to investigate and recover the money. So, Honorable House Chair, I respectfully ask the Deputy Minister to re-look at the fiscal framework. It cannot be that the SIU must be crippled by not being properly funded, and they are not properly funded, which is a fundamental violation of our Constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hendricks. The Honorable PM Hadebe.
Thank you, House Chairperson. In the post-1994 South Africa, the central role for local government was envisaged in the new developmental state that would deliver promised better life for all. The blueprint for this new form of local government was laid out in the 1998 White Paper on Local Government. The envisaged changes to the structure and operations of local government under the new constitution were both considerable and radical. An entirely new form of municipality was envisaged, with radically different authorities and obligations. South Africa has wall-to-wall municipality. Local government would now deliver far more services and a wider range of services for majority of South African residents who were excluded in the past. Honorable House Chair, the district development model provides an ideal opportunity where national, provincial, and local government can play a role to create conditions and conducive environment for developmental local government. The President in 2019 President Budget Speech identified the pattern of operating in silos as a challenge which led to a lack of coherent planning and implementation and made monitoring and oversight of government program difficult. The consequence has been non-optimal delivery of services and diminished impact on the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. President Ramaphosa further called for the rolling out of a new integrated district-based approach to address our service delivery challenges and localized procurement and job creation that promotes and support local businesses, and that involves communities. The president is cognizant of the fact that such an approach will require that national departments have district-level delivery capacity together with the provinces should implement plans in line with priorities identified in the state of the nation. The DDM provides a space where innovation could drive local economic development. The DDM builds on white paper on local government, which seeks to ensure that local government is capacitated and transformed to play a developmental role. The white paper says developmental local government is a local government committed to working with citizens, groups within communities to find sustainable ways to meet their social, economical, and material needs and improve the quality of their lives. To this end, developmental local government is seen as having 4 interrelated characteristics. One of maximizing social development and economic growth, integrating and coordinating, democratizing development, and leading and learning. For local government to advance this, the Constitution calls on national and provincial government to support and strengthen the capacity of municipality to manage their own affairs. Now, here are some of the solutions in terms of revenue enhancement collection. Honorable House Chair, globally, it is recognized that local government as a sphere closest to the people needs to transform itself by maximizing its resource of revenue. The collection of municipal services charge and municipal rates remains the main pillar and determine the viability of many municipalities. Without payment of services, municipalities will not be able to deliver services and fulfill the socio-economic role expected from them as per the Constitution. For municipalities to collect all outstanding municipal debt and enhance or maximize its revenue, it needs to focus on several elements. To mention but few, 1, the indigent registration. The definition of an indigent is that the household not financially capable of paying for service delivery due to several factors. As a priority, the indigent register process must be reopened with a clear framework on evaluation criteria to ensure that all residents without financial means to pay for services are registered. The indigent grant is currently underspent significantly. Therefore, strengthening the indigent system capacity will support poor while supporting local government. This process must be properly communicated and administratively. Municipalities must be able to manage the process of new application effectively and efficiently. The second aspect is management improvement of the accuracy and efficiency of meter readings. Accurate billing and services is a critical element of municipal revenue management business model. Due to poor billing and revenue collections, municipalities in rural areas without a sufficient revenue base increasingly depend on intergovernmental funding to balance their budget. This is an area where many complaints are registered daily, and in several instances, residents rightfully refuse to pay their accounts due to unreliable readings and charges. Captured meter readings, variant and exceptional reports must be verified before accounts are printed. Resolving the billing system is critical to ensure reliability of accounts charged to residents. The third aspect is support to debt collection, credit control, and customer care. The appointment and training of municipality debt collection staff cannot be overstated. The legal process and requirement needs to be focused on support through setting up a call center for outbound communication and inbound communication, where customers can register their problems and complain is indispensable. Efficient services in respect of application, termination of services, and ensuring inquiries and queries is timeliness dealt with is critical. In dealing with all queries, a systematic dispute or query handling system must be introduced in ensuring that all queries are dealt with in a good and professional manner. The increase in connectivity should also enable other forms of digital solution which can create ease of access to make payments and to set reminder for residents. Lastly, management of residents database. Municipalities are facing a challenge of not making sure that billing systems are accurate, bills are received on time, and resident database profile is updated and it's correct. Local municipalities need to update municipal residents' information, such as residential address and employment status, i.e. profiling or grouping of debtors and identifying prescribed debtors and recoverable debt for write-off. Local government municipalities should adopt innovative solutions to enhance the efficiency of various aspects of improving revenue collection and related processes. This will enable residents to have municipal related information at their fingertips for handling of their services. The mobilization of society to participate in local government is also critical. Municipalities need to develop measures to convince residents to pay for their taxes and services rendered. Strong public awareness and proactive revenue collection department would help in revenue collection. Municipalities should also endeavor to develop income-generating initiatives by introducing programs that aim to expand the revenue base of local municipality through supporting revenue enhancement activities. This will ensure that transparent management of revenue function to ensure customer awareness and support that will further ensure that businesses and residents pay for services. This will expand municipalities' revenue base by eliminating weaknesses in the billing system and improving intergovernmental relationship management. Municipalities should mobilize and work with community through enhanced participatory budgeting and civil participation, because this will engage citizens and facilitate enhanced revenue collection. Taxpayers and business owners must be convinced that
Honorable Adebe, unfortunately, your time has expired.
I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you very much. The Honorable W.R. Alexander, to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Chair. Municipalities are accountable for all expenditure under the fiscal framework. With the economy stagnating, municipalities are facing a constant challenging fiscal environment, which means they need to be more resourceful in generating their own income. The Constitution mandate for local government calls upon them to ensure that municipal bodies embody the principles of democracy and accountability while guaranteeing sustainable service delivery to communities. Moreover, local government should play a vital role in fostering economic growth and societal development, creating a safe and healthy environment for all. At the same time, it is imperative to encourage active community involvement in matters that impact local government, fostering a collaborative approach to governance. In South Africa, only 16% of our 257 municipalities have received a clean audit by the Auditor General in the 2021-22 financial year, highlighting a concerning regression in the overall standard of financial management within the country over the past 5 years. The importance of clean audits cannot be overstated. They serve as the cornerstone for municipalities in providing the much-needed services to communities and spending scarce public resources punitively, which is seen to improve citizens' lived experience. As the saying goes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And according to the Auditor General, 73% of municipalities in the DA-run Western Cape received a clean audit, compared to the 19% within the 8 ANC-run provinces. That is not even a pass rate in the South African basic education terms. And the shining star in Gauteng remains the DA-run Midvaal, receiving 8 consecutive clean audits. The result of a clean audit is that public money is spent on the public. So things work, people feel confident to invest in the future, and jobs are created, which we saw just the other day when it comes to job creation. The DA-run Western Cape created 167,000 new jobs, in contrast to the rest of the country, who only managed to create a mere 2,000 new jobs. The DA gets things done. While there are a number of revenue growth suggestions for local government, which includes improved revenue collection, public education, improved accountability, recruitment of qualified personnel, and reduction in corruption, just to name a few, I've just made a list of how to improve revenue, but this can all be in vain if municipalities are trading recklessly. And sadly, many entities within the municipalities are trading recklessly in terms of Section 22 of the Companies Act. This act prohibits reckless trading and touches on the criminality of company trading in such manner. But year in and year out, we see similar reports from the Auditor General on the financial health of local government. Gross dereliction of duties has finally caught up with some private companies that have not taken their fiduciary duty seriously. Likewise, municipal entities need to take their duty seriously, or they too should face the prospect of being declared delinquent. We need to seriously reflect on the proposal for government revenue growth, balanced alongside equipping local government with capable directors, government officials, and politicians. Since 2007, government debt has been raised from 577 billion to 4 trillion. Due to the volatile financial markets, which have pushed interest costs higher, the cost of repaying this debt is almost 40 billion rand higher than expected in February 2022. Service delivery at local level is currently being impacted by the cost of repaying debts, which detracts from the government's primary responsibility to provide essential services to the citizens. Instead of accumulating further debt and increasing service costs, the focus should be on addressing the obligations and ensuring effective delivery to the public. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Honourable Msimango from the ANC should close the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. I want to start by first acknowledging all the inputs that were done by different parties into this discussion. But what is notable, Chair, is the issue that is raised by the DA, where they are only raising the shining part of their success. They are not telling us about the failed projects which is Tshwane. They are not telling us about the failed projects, which is Johannesburg. It is true that the ANC has managed to implement the resolutions which seeks to make sure that our people are liberated, but also they are taken out of poverty. The reality is the ANC will go back to its people and account on the things that we have managed to do, but be honest on the things that we could not be able to do, and be able to list the reasons why we could not be able to do those things. So Honorable Mkhaliphi speaks about the minister that failed during her term when she was still a mayor in Polokwane. I can tell you now that is not true. But what is clear out of this discussion is that I don't know, or I don't understand where did the opposition parties get this nerve of, in the midst of an important discussion like this, they decide to tell us that we must go and
Honorable Kaula. Honorable Kaula. Please mute Honorable Kaula. Kubega Honorable Msimango. Kubega Honorable Msimango. Babu Msimango.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes. Kubega.
Yes. Be that as it may, the centrality of local government in the local social and economic upliftment of communities and provision of basic services is critical to improve the lives of the majority of the people in our country, which during apartheid faced poverty, inequality, unemployment, and historic economic exclusion. In fact, under apartheid, the majority of people were not supplied by local government with basic services. Parliament also has a role which is fundamental to play in the oversight of local government in terms of budgets, but also to ensure that local government has revenue streams through developing a culture of payment for services. It is imperative that there is a program to ensure that South African local government achieves financial viability for maximum execution of its constitutional development mandate to the majority of the people in the country, which have over the past 30 years received service delivery for the first time in their lives from the ANC government. Now that there are coalition governments in different parts of the country, and these coalitions are not functional or optimally functional, this will have a negative impact on service delivery for the communities at local level. Parliament's role in terms of the budget local allocation as tabled by the ANC Minister of Finance for local government seeks to strengthen existing interventions and solutions. The economic reconstruction and recovery plan also deals with local infrastructure development, and majority infrastructure projects are already underway in both urban and rural areas. This is critical as economic development is crucial for job creation and inclusive economic growth in the country. The DDM model is a tool to strengthen coordination for eradication of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, and ensure local economic development through connecting people to markets. It is critical to note that no other party has come up with an economic program and model such as district development model to ensure inclusive economic development at the local government level. Quality of governance at local government level is what the ANC is striving for and hopes to shortly achieve. This requires a complete shift in mindset in councils and management of municipalities to focus on their core mandates of service delivery and to ensure that municipalities are run efficiently by managing its resources and planning effectively with single goal of serving communities in this regard. The development of skills, capability, and capacity is critical for the implementation of this this program. Opposition parties have been in office for more than a year, for more than a year since the local government elections have taken place. The opposition parties, whilst will be found fighting over positions, and they've neglected the core business, which is to make sure that they deliver services to the people of South Africa. In this
Thank you very
regard,
much, Babu Msimango. Thank you so much, Honorable Member. The time has expired.
thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate, Honorable Members. We shall now proceed to the second and third orders, which will be taken together. This is the first reading debate on registration of Muslim marriage bill and the first reading debate on divorce amendment bill. I now recognize the Honorable MGE Hendricks.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members of Parliament, Assalamu alaikum. I thank you for this opportunity for the first reading of the registration of Muslim marriages bill B30 of 2022 as introduced in the National Assembly and as proposed under Section 76 of the Constitution. May it be recorded that the explanatory summary of the bill and prior notice of its introduction was published in the Government Gazette number 45275 of the 8th of October 2021, and that this bill has a certificate of constitutional compliance. I also want to acknowledge the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development and Correctional Services, and chairs of the Portfolio Committee that must issue a certificate of desirability or not for our bills to proceed. Not on our agenda. On the 8th of March, we commemorated International Women's Day, and soon we will commemorate Human Rights Day. And it is rather fortuitous that we find ourselves at this juncture discussing bills which is so integral to the realization of the rights of hundreds and thousands of women and children in South Africa today. It seems the Constitutional Court failed Muslim wives and their children in a Sharia marriage by giving government 2 years to restore their dignity, which is a foundational constitutional requirement, instead of stating quite strongly that the indignity must not continue a day longer than necessary. So even this 2-year deadline, well, I wish to respectfully state, will not be met. The Speaker, the Parliament, Legislative Drafting Team, and the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs and the Portfolio Committee of Justice and Constitutional Development have excelled themselves in enriching legislation with the great support they gave me in order for these private members' bills to appear before you today, to appear before Parliament. This makes our Parliament a truly people's Parliament. Honourable members would be leaving a remarkable legacy as we all approach the 7th Parliament, giving support to these private members' bills and other private members' bills. Al-Jamaah, being the only Muslim party in Parliament, has been assisted by different teams to bring before Parliament 3 private bills. The first one is an amendment to the Maintenance Act, this to give indigent mothers and children as complainants commuting cash to attend maintenance court hearings. This bill had its first reading amongst political parties, presentation to Portfolio Committee, and it received a response from the Department of Justice that hurriedly rejected the amendment. The Portfolio Committee has put on hold this rejection, which should be viewed by all as an oppressive act. It is one that persists in harming and discriminating against all women, as the defendants, considering the fact that in most cases it's the fathers would get cash for transport to defend themselves against paying maintenance for their children. We are grateful on the eve of Ramadan for the opportunity to bring 2 more private members' bills for the first reading, as you mentioned, Honourable House Chair, and a debate with political parties. The Muslim community looks forward to the support of honourable members to restore the dignity of Muslim wives and their children. It cannot be that children in the Sharia marriage are still regarded illegitimate and publicly shamed. The Constitutional Court has restored Muslim wives' dignity by recognizing a Sharia marriage, and now it is up to honorable members to do so, as the Constitutional Court has given them work to do and to finalize this before June 2024. The two private members' bills are on track to meet the deadline. No work has been done by government on the Divorce Act, and the Cabinet has rejected the work done by government's legal team on the new Marriage Act for South Africa. It looks like it does not meet constitutional muster. The Constitutional Court has unequivocally recognized the gross injustice suffered by Muslim wives and children born from a Sharia marriage. This recognition was echoed throughout all higher courts, from the Western Cape High Court to the Supreme Court of Appeal. This judicial consensus on the harms caused by our failing laws is evident in every single judgment on this issue from 2018 up to the Constitutional Court, a dozen or more cases. The latter unequivocally declared the state's failure to come to the rescue of Muslim women and children, and it proved that the state dismally failed to recognize and regulate important aspects of Muslim marriages. It argued that the legal treatment, which is qualitatively different when it is compared to civil and customary law marriages, is wholly unconstitutional. The legislature has given the state until June 2024 to remedy this, and if it fails, then the courts have imposed automatic consequences. The prevailing harm, humiliation, and indignity cannot be denied. This is the same harm, humiliation, and indignity that was suffered during the harshest days of apartheid, where even the wives and families of Muslim freedom and resistance fighters were not spared. Like so many other Muslim families that were disenfranchised and were deprived from their rights as to property, security, and dignity. One prominent and tragic example is that of Haji Halima Harun. Her husband was Imam Abdullah Harun, who was bludgeoned and tortured to death with blows by a weapon that is equivalent to that of a 10-pound hammer. As you heard at the recent November 2023 reopened inquest into the tragic death of the Imam during his lifetime and his wife made a home for the family at a time when he was killed while in detention. He left behind a modest estate to ensure the financial security and provisioning his wife and children. However, because the marriage was not recognized and there was no valid South African marriage certificate, Haji Halima and the young children were evicted from their family home and were one stage left penniless from the estate. The entire family was left homeless, living in the streets, and they had to seek shelter with Haji Halima's family and friends. This is a story of many more Muslim families today. The primary reason being the lack of mechanism to prove a valid Muslim marriage in civil law terms. We as a party are happy that the Minister of Home Affairs proactively responded that the humiliating entry of never married on the death certificate of Muslims in a Sharia marriage be changed to married. This is welcome and indeed a bold move. And a circular is being drafted as I speak. All that is needed now for a Sharia marriage certificate, together with an ID to get a respectable death certificate, is what is required. Honorable House Chair, when one day a one-statute marriage bill becomes compliant, this marriage bill can then be incorporated. I invite you to make history by giving life and agency to the Muslims of South Africa through this bill in a manner that elevates our constitution and lays an important milestone for our constitutional democracy. Not a day longer can we allow these injustices to continue. Not a day longer should the Muslim woman and child worry about whether they'll have a roof over their heads when facing divorce. Not a day longer should families go hungry because departments cannot decide on the issue of pension or deceased estate payouts when these rightful beneficiaries are grieving the loss of a spouse and a marriage. Can we in good conscience allow this to continue even for a day longer? Honorable House Chair, honorable members, I thank you for this opportunity for the first reading of the Divorce Amendment Bill. The second one that the House Chair referred to, introduced in the National Assembly. It may be recorded that the explanatory summary of the bill and prior notice was published in the Government Gazette 47526 on the 18th November. Regarding my amendments proposed through this bill, This offers an easy, effective, and speedy way to protect the propriety rights and financial security for Muslim women and children at divorce. Presently, the Divorce Act does not give Muslim wives in a Sharia marriage access to the divorce court. That is a fundamental flouting of our constitution. Every South African has the right to have access to every court. But just because you are married in a Sharia marriage, Muslim wives cannot go to the divorce court to seek relief. So the Constitutional Court asked for 4 amendments, only 4 amendments, and the department legislative drafting team assisted me to make those 4 little amendments, which means that the rights for other women in the Divorce Act will now apply to Muslim wives who are in a Muslim marriage. So we feel that this is an important breakthrough. But earlier on, I spoke about the registration of the Muslim Marriages Bill, which gives you the valid South African marriage certificate. So if you have that valid South African marriage certificate, then there should be no problems to get to the access to the divorce court. But hundreds and thousands of Muslims don't have that valid South African marriage certificate, and that's why the Divorce Act has to be amended. And the Constitutional Court has been very strict. It has said that if you don't meet the 2-year deadline, South Africa will not have a Divorce Act. This will create chaos, Honourable Chair. So we are calling on the honourable members to carefully consider supporting the amendments to the Divorce Act. It's only 4 amendments, and also to consider the mechanisms and the clauses that we introduce just to give Muslim wives or those married in a Sharia marriage a valid South African marriage certificate. We are not introducing Sharia marriage law in our bills. That is the domain of our ulama, of our religious leaders. They must sort that out. They must not make their problems Parliament's problems. But this is purely an administrative intervention. We want a valid South African marriage certificate, because the Constitutional Court has been very clear. The Constitutional Court has said that a Sharia marriage is a valid marriage in terms of South African law, and the consequences of a Sharia marriage is obviously in terms of the Sharia. So we have gone to the assistance of government by giving a definition of what is the Sharia and also what is the Muslim marriage. Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, in terms of the rules, there will be no speakers list on this matter, and members may not speak for longer than 3 minutes upon being recognized by the presiding officer. I will now recognize political parties in the same order as the declarations of vote to make their inputs. Not more than 3 minutes. The ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. Chair, the ANC acknowledges the registration of Muslim marriages and divorce amendment bills as proposed by Al-Jama. We acknowledge the Constitutional Court judgment in the case of Women's Legal Center Trust versus the President of the Republic of South Africa and others, wherein it declared the Marriage Act of 1961 and the Divorce Act of 1979 to be inconsistent with some sections of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, insofar as they failed to recognize marriages solemnized in accordance with Sharia law, which have not been registered as civil marriages, as valid marriages for all purposes in South Africa, and to regulate the consequences of such recognition. The court considered the issues of mechanism to safeguard the welfare of minor or dependent children born of Muslim marriages, the redistribution of assets, and the forfeiture of the patrimonial benefits upon the dissolution of Muslim marriages. We appreciate the contents of both bills and the need for a more equal and just society. House Chair, we are aware that the Department of Home Affairs, as led by Minister Motsoaledi, is in the process of developing a marriage bill, and this is at an advanced stage in the cabinet process. The department noted that the legislation which currently regulates marriages in South Africa has been developed without an overarching policy that is based on constitutional values and the understanding of modern societal values. To create a harmonized system of marriage, the department indicated that it plans to bring the various pieces of legislation, including the Civil Union Act, Marriage Act, and the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act under a single new act. House Chair, once that is finalized, the marriage bill, which will encompass the various types of marriages and of different faiths, including Muslim marriages, amongst others, it will align the marriage and marital property and divorce legislation to address marital property and interstate succession matters in the event of the marriage dissolution. House Chairs, the ANC, we will continue to champion for gender equality, the protection of women and children, and the empowerment of marginalized groups in society. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The GA.
House Chair, the registration of marriages, Muslim marriages and divorce amendment bills before us seek to regulate the recognition, dissolution, and consequences of Muslim marriages and provide mechanisms to safeguard the welfare of the wives and children born of Muslim marriages. Our Muslim communities are part of South Africa's richly diverse society. From the DA's values and principles, I quote, though our people come from different origins, worship in different ways, and have different cultures and customs, we are all unique individuals. The DA celebrates diversity and recognizes the right of each individual to be who they want to be and free from domination by others. Now, despite the fact that Islam calls for the protection of women and children, South Africa is also a land with crippling levels of violence against women and mistreatment of women, who are often left without protection. The practice of having multiple wives came at a time when thousands of Muslim men died in wars. Instead of leaving large numbers of families, widows, and orphans abandoned, Islam offered a practical solution. Now, the general understanding in the Quran is that fair dealing with women and orphans is the primary motivation in Islam for allowing multiple marriages, albeit connected with a strict condition. Prior to the decision to marry a second wife, a man must first ensure that he will deal with his wives and any orphans with justice and take the decision with taqwa, or God consciousness. Now, despite opposition from the government every step of the way, in Women's Legal Center Trust versus President of the Republic of South Africa, interim protection was finally provided by the court for women and children of Muslim marriages that were not treated with justice and were left destitute. And this House is required by the Constitutional Court to amend existing legislation or pass new legislation by the 28th of June 2024 in order to ensure the recognition and regulation of the consequences of Muslim marriages. The Democratic Alliance is therefore willing to work with the proposer to put together a version of this bill that hopefully all will be able to support. But proper public participation is key. That we hear from ulama councils, from women's rights organizations, and most importantly, from the affected women and children. The former husband of one of the litigants was able to dissolve their marriage without due consideration for procedural fairness. The minor children were removed from her care. She was forced to leave her matrimonial home after the spouse died and live in a shelter. Now, as we consider these bills, we must remember that the very purpose of these marriages in the first place was to protect families, widows, and abandoned orphans, and ensure justice for them. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. EFF.
Thanks, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, the EFF is going to engage further on the two bills at the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs. However, the Economic Freedom Fighters is happy that the bill is being revised after stalling because the EFF prides itself as the vanguard of the society. Every society must be allowed to exercise marriage, not a way that is not a way that is conventional and acceptable to a superior society such as Western culture, but according to their age, long cultural and religious beliefs. Among the 6 rules of the general essentials of a Muslim Nikai, binding agreement of free will between the parties is the requirement, and most importantly, no legal impediments. Currently, the legal framework in South Africa is definitely infringing on the acceptable cultural and religious norms of Muslim marriage backgrounds dating way back to the days of Prophet Muhammad. The recognition of Muslim marriage norms could be similar to the acceptance of the indigenous customary marriage standards that are recognized for their roots in our cultural societies more than for Western acceptable standards. Forcing the current marriage bill as it is to Muslim societies will be akin to forcing Christianity on all religious societies in South Africa as the most acceptable, more than infringing on the personal liberties of Muslim society standards and norms. The undermining of Muslim marriages recognition has numerous downstream negative consequences of women that enter into polygamous marriages and all of their offsprings. These are generally treated as outcasts and are normally excluded from all the post-death rituals and entitlements. This generally affects women and children more than it does on men who do not recognize and accept polyandry in the same culture and religious. In essence, it premises on male dominance to the detriment of women and their children. The sole fact is it has been reflected by the Apex Court for Review says a lot about the incompatibility of the marriage bill to the Muslim society. Justice should be served. As the EFF, we support the idea of revising the 2 bills registrations, and we will engage further in the portfolio committee. I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. IFT.
Honorable Chairperson, the protection and rights afforded by our Constitution apply equally and fairly to all citizens of this country and prohibit any discrimination based on religion. The Constitution also confers freedom of religion, equal access to justice, and the recognition of customary law. However, the current legal framework may infringe upon the religious autonomy of Muslim couples by subjecting them to civil law instead of their religious law, which may be inconsistent with their beliefs. In respect of divorce proceedings, there must be the protection of rights of both spouses and their children in the event of irretrievable marital breakdown. There must additionally be a fair division of assets and access to a court regarding disputes resting to the divorce proceedings, such as maintenance, custody, the equitable division of property, the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act of 1998 sought to incorporate and recognize Muslim marriages in South African law. However, certain lacunae remain in terms of marriages entered under Sharia law. For example, the Act does not explicitly address the divorce process for Muslim marriages, leaving Muslim spouses in an arguable legal limbo. Such does not create legal certainty and opens itself up to abuse, with its victims and collateral damage, most often being vulnerable women and children. Overall, the legal framework governing Muslim marriages in South Africa is a complex issue. As one will note, from all the debate and input on the matter, it undoubtedly requires careful consideration and balancing of various competing interests, which include religious autonomy, equality before the law, and access to justice. The
Thank you very
IFP
much,
will continue
Honorable Prof.
to support equality for all before the law. I thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. FF plus. FF plus. Okay, I pass. ACDP. Yazula. ACDP. UDM. UDM. Yazula. ATM. ATM. I pass. Good. Good. I pass. NFP. NFP. Yazula. AIC. AIC. Pass. Cope. Cope. PAC.
Honorable Chair, we
Yeah,
don't
but-
have any declaration other than we support the bill as presented by Al Jama. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyanso. EFF.
EFF.
Yes, Honorable Mkalipi.
We have debated.
It's written EFF in front of me, so
We must start again the debate.
I am calling it as such.
So what needs
It's
to
a
happen now?
declaration. It's declarations
We
on
have
the
done it.
amendment.
You
Yes,
have a right
but,
to remain silent, Mkhalip.
but,
We are not in EFF.
okay, Honorable Mkalipi. You have exhausted the opportunity. We have participated. Thank you very much. I will pass. GA. Okay, GA has done it as well. This
is confusion, Chair. Please.
Okay,
Come,
Honorable
Confusion.
Mkalipi. We will attend to that. Don't have to stress about that.
And we are members here. You can't be subjected to mediocre.
Okay, Honorable Mkalipi, I have noted what you are saying, but I'm merely interpreting what is right in front of me.
You are confused, Chairperson. Don't subject us to your confusion, man.
Which member is that?
I can't be here if I'm not a member. I'm here because I'm a member. Oh, if you don't know me, it's not my problem. Don't subject us to mediocrity here.
Honorable Khoza, we work according to the guidelines that's in front of me here, and all parties are listed here. So it is not within my right to deny an opportunity that is presented to any party according to the guide that I'm having. In the event your party has been repeated twice, that is a matter that you need to take it further in your party, but there is nothing mediocre about that. If there is a problem, it will be addressed accordingly. You don't have to go to the length.
Talk to your table. Talk to your table staff. Don't subject us to that. Talk to your table staff.
Order, presiding officer. We can't have this situation, please.
We are not a prefect, Papa. Who said you are a prefect? Why are you guiding us there? We are not a prefect, man. Just wait. We are members like you.
IT, can you please take out Honorable Mkalipi?
I don't
and
care.
Honorable Kongo? Could you
We
please
can't
do
be
it?
subjected to your mediocre. Kugile wena madala, ulandeli igama lakho uzokugela la. We are repeating parties that have spoken as well.
We don't
Take
care.
me out. I don't care. Take me out. Kugile.
Chair, I wish to lodge a formal complaint against Member Mkalipi for the unparliamentary words he has used against you.
Thank you, Honorable Papo. Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Let's continue, honorable members. We are now left with the ANC. ANC. Is the ANC going to participate further? Thank you very much. I pass. I now recognize the Honorable MGE Hendricks to close the declarations.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. I'd like to thank the Pan-African Congress, the PAC, for fully supporting the registration of Muslim marriages bill and the amendments. I welcome the commitment of the Democratic Alliance and the EFF to work with us in the Portfolio Committee to further get this bill to make progress. And also, I hope other political parties who did not participate will assist in the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs if that opportunity comes. Honorable House Chair, the Minister of Home Affairs reported to the Chairman of the committee and the Portfolio Committee that Al-Jamaat refused to cut a deal. And the deal was that everything that was in our bills will be incorporated in the new Marriage Act that will most probably be sometime in the 7th Parliament. And like you heard, Honorable Chair, not a day longer must pass than necessary for the dignity of Muslim wives and their children to be restored. Honorable House Chair, I would like to refer you to clause number 23 in our registration of Muslim marriages bill. This is clause point 23. The clause 11 is very important. It provides for the limited duration of the application of the Act. That's clause 11.1. Provides for the abrogation of the Act, stating its limited duration as follows. This Act is automatically repealed upon the commencement of an Act of Parliament regulating the recognition, solemnization, propriety consequences, and dissolution and consequences of dissolution of Muslim marriages. So we conclude this debate, and we thank you for the opportunity. And the Speaker, Honorable Chair, we would like to conclude by stating that honorable members of Parliament, noting that it will take quite some time for the acts to be enacted, and that there's an urgency to restore the dignity of Muslim wives and children, that the bills presented by Al-Jamaat, seeing that the Minister of Home Affairs gave an undertaking that it will be incorporated in the new Marriage Act, this must be seen as an interim measure. Now, it's not nice for Parliament to come up with interim measures, but the harm done to the dignity of women and children overrides the issue of expediency. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hendricks. That, honorable members, concludes the debate and the business of this virtual mini-plenary session. The mini-plenary will now rise.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.